Today we are going to work with one of the most important parts of WordPress, which we need both now and later, and that is the themes, or the display section of WordPress itself. WordPress provides us with an option to use a variety of templates. Now, what is the use of these templates for me or for us? It is that when I open any site, it has an appearance. And in WordPress, we call this appearance a template or theme. In WordPress, when I go to the display section, it has some default themes for me, which it says I have installed as defaults. We have several. We can use templates in several different ways, meaning there are generally a few types of templates. There are free templates available, and there are templates in WordPress's own repository. WordPress itself has a repository and a store, which in this context means a software store where both free templates and the plugins are available in the repository. Now I can either use free templates or purchase templates. This purchase can be from Iranian websites or foreign websites. Iranian sites like Artil or Jacket, and foreign sites like ThemeForest. From these sites, I can get the templates and install them, but the installation methods are different. That's why I usually download the templates I want to use for free from specific sources and the ones I want to purchase. Have a completely different installation method, which we will cover in the next sessions to really understand how we can install these templates. But for when I want to use a free template, I need to get it from the official repository. And this is an important point, because it's crucial not to use cracked free templates from Google. For example, if someone says they've cracked a template and you should use it, those templates definitely have malicious code and can lead to your site being hacked and lost. Now, in order to use the free templates from the official repository, I go to the Appearance section and click on Add New at the top. Then I connect to the official repository. It brings up a series of themes for me, saying these are my themes. You can see they have different appearances. If your website is very simple, you can use these themes. But if not, and you want to optimize your website and build something substantial on it, definitely buy a theme. Because free themes are of low quality and don't have many options. For example, I can now install the Astra theme or the Elementor theme. Here I want to install the Astra theme. I can either click on Install or click on Preview. It shows me a preview of that theme indicating what the theme looks like. When I click on Install, it starts downloading and it gets installed on my WordPress. Now I wait for it to be installed. It now says, "Sir, this theme has been installed. Do you want to activate it?" I say, "Yes, activate it for me." Usually the themes we install have a small theme setting, which is quite minimal. Now, since this theme is free, but later on, we'll get to how the theme installations look. If I take a look at my display and website, not much of a significant change happens because I need to go to the settings to configure its settings. Now I will go and install another theme again, because I don't have a limitation on installing themes. However, generally it's better to have just one theme installed, because the rest would take up extra space from my hosting. Now I can activate the Elementor theme. Okay guys, every theme I install adds a custom section for me, and when I click on it, I'm faced with a new environment that provides me with a series of settings. In the first section, it's about the site's identity, where it says at the top that I can upload the logo I have here. I can upload my sample icon here, or set their size to a specific size, meaning you can upload the entire icon. Where do you want me to save this section for you? I say, "Sir, this is for the header." This becomes the logo that I have. You see it added up here for me as well. So for example, if I save my own logos, I can use them here as a logo. Now I am saving this logo. And I can put the logo I have here again. It says this is my logo and its size is specified. It says put this much of it. But guys, we definitely don't do cropping with this. We have to go to Photoshop and do this cropping there. Okay. Now it has placed my logo, and it doesn't really matter much to us. how it looks, but the point is that we are working on a sample now. I can also change the site title and add a short introduction. And guys, I have another icon that tells me you can use it, and its name is the site favicon, which is correctly termed as the site favicon. What is a site favicon? Guys, usually when you open websites, next to the title there's an icon. It places it for you, and I call this image a favicon. I can choose any favicon, but now I will put the same logo of the site again as the favicon. It has a specific size, and I say to set it to this size for me. I can't really change its size much. And when I select it, you can see up here that the title has changed, and here I can set the favicon. This becomes my first setting. I publish it so that my changes are saved. I go back to the list of menus I have, which we will get to later, on how we can manage them. The next section is for homepage settings. It says you can set your website's homepage to display your latest posts, or you can have a static page. I say, let's define About Me as the homepage. Guys, what does homepage mean? It means when someone opens my site and enters my site's address, what is the first page they see? This is the homepage setting. Now later on, we will create a main page and set it as the homepage. There are header and footer settings which are now associated with Elementor, but we won't deal with them right now. Guys, the top part of my website where the menu and logo are located is called the header. And the bottom part of my website where I put some data, which can be a menu, an About Us section, and some social media logos, is called the footer. Later on, we'll get to how we can design headers and footers. There's also a section for additional CSS, where I can place any CSS I write for the sections. Guys, CSS is the code I use for the appearance of my website. I can change its color and do a variety of things with it. In this course, we'll briefly cover it and learn what CSS is and how we can use it. Work with it. If we write any CSS, we can place it in this section. This becomes a setting available to me in the customization section. When I want to exit here, I can click on this cross. Another feature it provides me is it shows me the settings in different modes, both tablet mode and mobile mode. Now I can close this section and return to the previous state. The next sections I have in the display are the menus and the theme file editor. Guys, the menus are those menus that I have. I can define a menu for my website and display these menus in different places. But here we know it as a menu. No. The first thing that exists here is menu management. It says, sir, you can create your first menu. Right now, I want to create a menu named homepage and place it in my header. It gives me the option to set the display location, and it also has something that says, sir, you can manually place it at the top of the menu. But here, I select it and say, sir, I want it as my header menu. When I use this, guys, I create it, and it says, sir, you have added a menu. You can also add a new menu. But on the right side, it gives me a series of elements. It says, sir, you have some sections on your website like posts, unique links, and categories. I can select these. I want to bring About Momo into my menu. I can bring whatever I need from the posts onto my menu. I can create a unique link. What does that mean? It means I can enter an external or internal address myself and not use the post links. Usually, when we want to put a post that doesn't have a URL to anywhere, we use the hashtag #, guys. We also have a section called Unique Link Late, where we can place an address from outside into our own system when we want to enter a post. We can also write its text. Here. I want to create a main page menu. Guys, and I will add this. I can also move it around. Here, bringing it above my categories, if I have something specific in mind that I want to add. Guys, I have another topic. I can create both a menu and a submenu. How can I do that? First, I add it, and then I drag the part I want to become a submenu to the desired section. This way, I can define a submenu for the main menu. When I save this and go back to the customization section, my menu lists become active for me. You can see the places where you have sent the first header and search the home page to see if it has been added to our site or not. You can see on the left side here, it has brought us the homepage, About Us, and Blog. And we have also defined a subcategory for it called WordPress. So this way I can manage all the menus. On each of these menus, the kids give me a series of options. Now I can remove them. In the About Us section and any other item I select, a series of options appear here for me, which we are not dealing with right now. The next part we have, kids, is in the Display section, and our last option is the theme file editor. It allows me to go into my theme and edit the files I have, and it also gives me a warning that if you want to do this, be very careful, because these are your theme files. If you make changes and they are not correct, the site will no longer function. Here, it shows me all the files that are in that theme, which include a combination of CSS, PHP, and JS files, which has different subfolders. We are not dealing with them right now, guys, but we know they exist in this section. And now we've learned how to work with the themes, Ocratis menus and editors, in the Display section. Okay, guys. In this section, we're going to get familiar with WordPress plugins. Perhaps one of the most important parts of WordPress that really sets it apart from other CMSs is the WordPress plugins themselves. This means that for about 90% of our tasks, whatever we need, we can find a plugin for it, install it, and meet our needs. And again, this is one of those WordPress features that we use. There are both free plugins and non-free or paid plugins that we can purchase from Iranian or foreign sites like Artil, Jacket, or Tenfars. To access the plugin section, we go to the plugin section from the menu. In the first step, when you enter the list of plugins or installed plugins, it shows me the plugins that I currently have on my system. There are several statuses, either active or inactive. I can use any of the plugins I need. Now, I have activated this one, and it appears in the list of plugins as an active plugin. It indicates that this plugin is active. And if it has any settings, I can go into its settings. Now, for example, this plugin is for the same CAPTCHA I mentioned to you for comments. It has an effect now. This CAPTCHA doesn't allow it, but it comes and detects whether it's a robot or not. And there are some default plugins of WordPress that we don't need, and we can remove them. Removing a plugin means we can select them collectively and execute the removal. Or we can do it individually. For each one, individually that we don't want, we can remove them. And any plugin that needs an update will appear here for us. If I want to install plugins from the repository, I click on Add New up here. So, for example, the first one is the classic editor, which is the same thing we can use instead of Gutenberg, and it reverts to the previous versions of the editor itself. In plugins, based on our needs, we must know which plugin we require. For each website, we need a set of default plugins. For example, I want complete WordPress security for all websites. If the website is an online store, we definitely need WooCommerce. WooCommerce is a free plugin. Generally speaking, plugins usually work in such a way that they provide you with a elite or initial version for free, and then for the pro version, they say you need to purchase it. Usually, since we don't make purchases in dollars, we use cracked and nulled plugins. However, it's very important which site we use. For example, we don't just search on Google for plugin downloads or something like that. If we download from a site like Persian Script, that plugin is definitely either corrupted or contains malicious code that can cause damage. But any plugin we need, we can use from the repository itself. If there's something not available in the repository, we can download it from Artil, Jakat, or some other sites, which we will discuss later to determine what the best sites are for choosing plugins. I now want to install WooCommerce itself, which is a plugin for stores. I just want to install it now. Guys, Usually, any plugin we install, depending on its application, adds a series of menus for me when it's installed. Sayrax. These menus are the settings and options that the plugin has added to my site. Like, once it's downloaded, it gives me the option to activate it. Let me activate it now. In the menu, WooCommerce appears for me, meaning I can have a product management section and use the store site that I have set up. But this is only half of the plugin, meaning we can't just create a complete store site by merely installing WooCommerce. It won't fulfill all our needs. Now it's going to install some features of WooCommerce itself, which we don't need to deal with right now. We return to the plugin section itself. So any plugin we need, we can install here, based on our needs. For example, we have now installed WooCommerce. You can see on the right, it has brought up its menu for me, like WooCommerce products. The analysis it is supposed to perform and the marketing or campaigns it has. So any plugin that is needed, we use it. Some plugins, guys, are always needed for my website, like Complete WordPress Security. The classic editor, depending on the type of work I am doing. If I want to use a page builder, I can. I can download the basic and simple version of Elementor from the repository, which is a page builder. We will get to what it is later, but I can also install it from the repository. If I search for Elementor here, whether in Persian or English, it usually shows up for me. For example, Elementor in Persian has been brought to me, but it's necessary to search for the English version of Elementor itself. I can install Elementor here and add a page builder to the website. From the plugin section, I can install anything I need from the repository or buy and download its file and install it. Now, if I buy a file, install it, and download it, where do I do that from? Not from the repository, it should be my own downloaded file. This ends here, so I go to the plugin section and add it. In this section, if I click on Upload Plugin, I can upload the plugin I downloaded here and install it. There's another part, guys, in the plugin section, similar to the themes display, which allows me to go into the plugins and the files I need. I can select which plugin it is from up here and make the edits I want, but under no circumstances should you use this section, because you don't have the conditions to edit the plugins you're using right now, and you'll definitely mess them up. If we want to make changes, we do it from the settings themselves, because certainly whenever I install a plugin, it gives me a setting. So in this section too, we learned how you can work with plugins. In this section, we want to get familiar with the WordPress user section. What is the WordPress user section? What feature is it? When I set up a website, I might not want to work on it alone. I might want to let someone else work on the website too, or maybe define another operator for it. To work in the admin layer, or if my website is a store, a user might come to register and buy a product from me. I need something to manage my users or administrators on the website. For this section, we go to the users menu from the right menu. It gives us some data, like how many users there are, what their gender is, what their role is. So here we call it a role. For example, this one is the main admin, and this is their username. No name has been defined for them. This is their email, and they have written or created this many posts or pages on my website. I can create a new user, guys. My user can be anything. They can be a customer, an admin, or a writer. I provide a series of options, like giving me the username. Guys, I can either use an email or a username for the username. For example, I set this one as Ashti Plus. It says you need to give me an email, so I provide, for example, dip.hdmarketing.org. It asks for my name, and I say, for instance, Mr. Samketi. Website, Botset, Designer, HDM. I can provide both a first name and a last name, and if I don't want to, I can leave them blank. I can even choose not to write a name. It asks if there is a website to provide it, but we don't need that. It asks what the default language should be, English or Persian. Well, if our site is in Persian, I definitely select Persian. It says you need to give it a username and a password. You already provided the username above, and it says you also need to give it a password. Again, guys, the password is from this itself. Use the WordPress password generator itself. Don't set it as 123 or 129. Don't set it as admin because your site will definitely become vulnerable. Here, when you set an easy password, it says, "Sir, the password you chose is weak," meaning it's not strong. We can't give this to anyone, but if you're really insistent on using it, you can confirm the use of a weak password, so to speak. It says if something comes up, the related email should go to them, to inform them about the events happening on WordPress, what's happening on my site. And the last part is about what role they have on my website. Are they a subscriber or a customer, so to speak? Or for example, a contributor or an author. When they are an author, they only have access to the writing section to be able to write posts. If they are an editor, they can edit, write, and activate or deactivate posts and pages. Or if they are an administrator, they can do everything. Guys, both the subscriber and the customer are the same thing because the upper one is for WooCommerce itself, which has been added, MAM. We also have another one called Shop Manager, which means someone responsible for managing the store. We can assign any of these roles as we want. For example, I set it to administrator and add this user. Guys, when I add this user, it appears in my user list and their role is specified. When I edit it, it also gives me 3 other options. It says, Mr. Hassan, you can close its editor, close its code, even change the admin panel theme. You see, when I change it, it changes. You can disable the shortcuts it has for the management panel, change its language, and other things. You can even set an X profile for it, create a new password for it. For example, if you created a user or an admin and they lost their password, you can come to the new password section for and a few other data which we don't deal with for WooCommerce, but mostly if we want to change its name, change its surname, or even change its email, we come here. But guys, we can't change the username at any point unless we go and change it from the database. So if we want to edit this too from this also becomes part of the user management section, right? In this section, you can work with WordPress tools. WordPress tools are a set of features that WordPress itself provides us. When I enter from the tools menu, it has a series of sub-menus for me, and when I click on them, it gives me an overview of what these tools can do. For example, the first thing I can do with the tools is importing and exporting, which is the same as our import or export. I want to export some information I have on this site, like posts, pages, and my products, and transfer them to another site. This process is called importing and exporting, so I need to perform the export. When I come to this section, it says, "Sir, I will give you an XML file, which is abbreviated as this, and you perform these tasks." Or for example, I will give you the WXR format. Now here I choose what I want to export, whether I want the content, the post, the page, or any of these other items. I can select whichever I want and export it. You can see a file up here that it gave me saying, "This is your file where I gathered all the data you wanted from your site." Now, if I want to import it somewhere else on another site, I go to Tools and Import. And it gives me a set of tools. For example, I have import options for posts, like with LiveJournal or other things. These are some features it has, but if we want to export something and import it into WordPress, we need to go to Import and select WordPress. This means I can split this section as an add-on or plugin. and it can be installed for me, allowing me to execute the import. Here, it simply tells me, "Sir, give me your file." I provide it with the file, this XML file that exists, and I proceed to enforce or export it. Now it asks, "Sir, with which user do you want to do this?" I must say, whether you want to place it on your website or import it, you select your user. It asks if these products, posts, or pages that you are importing into this site have an image or background file. Do you want me to download them? You can check the box and proceed to execute. The next item we have is site health. This means when your site encounters an issue, you can check these items from the site health section. Some of them are very technical, while others are more straightforward. It is still loading, meaning it is reading the data for us to see what is happening on the website. We wait for it to perform the tasks it is supposed to do. It gives me a score and says, "Sir, your site needs improvement." It has a series of elements and checklists that indicate what is not active on your site. For example, it might say, "Sir, page caching is not active." We will get to what page caching is later, such as the concept of caching or optimization. It might say, "Sir, you have some plugins that need to be removed or some templates that need to be deleted." There are one or more suggested modules. It says, "Sir, installing this plugin would be beneficial for you." It says after using object, "Izaki, cache." We'll get to it later. You say you have media updates that you haven't done, and your website doesn't have HTTPS or SSL. What is SSL, guys? It's a security protocol that we use to enhance the security of the website, and we'll learn later how we can do this. The next topic, guys, our next tab is information. When I click on information, it gives me some general data. What is WordPress, sir? For example, it tells me, "Sir, this is your version, your site's language is Persian, and there is other data." The next tab gives me the size of my folders. "Sir, what is the size of your site at the moment? What is your active theme?" It gives general data about what is inactive, what the plugins are, and what your server is. It tells me, "Sir, your web server is Lightspeed, your server architecture is this." It gives me general data like this. For example, it tells me the database is MySQL, and its version, and how your users are. And it also tells you which WordPress functions are defined and which are not. And it gives me access to the system files, like whether you can write something on your WordPress or not. Guys, this part is more about security. We will get to it in the security configurations, discussing what we should do to ensure that our site cannot be altered from the outside, or, as they say, hacked. And it has some other options in the tools section, like cleaning and personal data requests. But we are not dealing with these right now. If we want to delete or clear something, we don't use WordPress's default tools. Instead, we go for plugins that are suitable for this task. We have learned how we can work with WordPress tools in this section. Guys, in this segment, we're going to get familiar with the settings of WordPress Perl, meaning any setting that we can apply to customize our website structure and tailor our WordPress to exactly what we need. I have several sections for configuring my website. If I go into my user panel or admin panel in Perl, I can log in again. In the settings section, it brings up several settings for us, some of which we will work with, and some we won't, meaning we might not want to change them at all, but we will get familiar with them. The first setting is the general settings, which tells me some general data. When I was installing WordPress, I set a title for my site, and I can change it from the general settings section. I can write a short introduction, like an example it has provided itself, or for instance on another site with WordPress. The next setting we have is the website address setting. When you haven't changed the site to another place, or its domain, don't change this. Later, we'll explain how to transfer a site and what tools you should use. The next part, guys, is the website admin email, which notifies you and updates you on statuses. We can change this. The next topic is whether we should allow people to register on our site or not. Sometimes my site isn't an e-commerce site, it's a corporate site, so I don't need registration. I will disable this section. The next point is, what role should someone who registers on my site have? For example, should they be a subscriber, a customer, or an administrator? It should always be set to subscriber, because those who register on our site definitely want to use our website services. We always create the administration ourselves. We can change the site's language. And the local time and time zone are set by WordPress, which should always be set to Tehran. We can search for it and set it to Tehran. The next topic, guys, is our date format. It asks how I should format the dates to meet our needs. We can always change it, but it is usually set to the default format. The next topic is how the start of the week should be. Since it recognizes that we are using Persian, it is set to Saturday. The next setting we have is the writing setting. There are a series of settings related to what the default category should be. When I am posting content, what should the default post format be? Which editor should I use? Since we have chosen the Classic Editor plugin, should it be the Classic Editor or Gutenberg, and whether we allow the user to switch between editors? These settings become the default. We have 3 email settings for when the board itself wants to send an email. Usually you should leave this on the default setting unless a problem arises, which we will work on together later. We can also define the default category for sending emails. Let's move on to the reading settings. In the reading settings, I can do a few things similar to what we did in customization, like deciding what our homepage should be. For now, it's the same. We can display content on each page and decide how many to display, or what the feed should include, for example, whether it should include all the posts or just the excerpts. We'll get to this in more detail later, like what its application is. When I want to display content on the category page, I can choose whether to show the excerpts or all the posts. And the last checkbox is for when we used to say in WordPress, check the box so that search engines don't read or index our site. This is especially when our site is not finished yet. We can come to this section and uncheck this box and say, let Google read my site. This means it will appear in the search results. The next setting we have is the discussion settings or user comments. It provides me with some data like whether I should close comments or not, and whether I should allow emails to be sent to others for new posts. Or, for example, I can specify that comments older than 14 days should be considered closed, meaning no one can perform any actions on them anymore. I can also define how many people can reply to each other on comments. Because if you remember, we made a comment and then responded to that same comment ourselves. Here, we can display those comments and decide how many comments to show per page before moving to the next page. And we can set it so that comments must be manually approved, meaning comments can't just be posted freely for anyone to write whatever they want. The next item is media settings. The file manager or media manager we have in WordPress automatically creates copies and crops images in several sizes when we upload any image. We can now change those sizes here, which completely depends on our needs, but we usually leave it on default. The next item is when you say, I want to organize files by month and year. What does that mean? It means when you upload, it organizes them by month and year in the file manager. For this part, guys, the attachment settings are very important. Remember the time. It didn't allow us to change its name, meaning I couldn't set a slug for my post. Sometimes I want to write this part in English or Persian, for example, content writing tutorial. And I don't want it to be a number, I want it to be text. To make this happen, we go into the attachment settings, and we can choose how it should be, whether based on day and month or numerical. We usually set it to post name, and we can also apply some specific settings ourselves to determine how it should be displayed. But typically, we set it to post name. and define the category or tag, but we don't deal with the rest because it's related to WooCommerce. And in this section, we ensure that the permalink is activated on post name. When I activate this setting, I go to my post, and once I write and refresh it, which is here now, I can see the address it has generated for me. Notice that it has changed from that numerical p equals 8, which they call a query string, to a text. Well, this is much better for me and more impactful in SEO. So in order for me to change something in my post and use it, I need to set the permalinks to post name. The last setting we have is the privacy settings, where I can define a page for the terms and conditions of using the website and assign it as a page. This is the last Gauss element we have. We use in the settings of the Persepolis board. And the settings are the last part we explain in the basics of using WordPress. In the next sessions, we will learn how to get familiar with other tools and design other websites. Thank you for being with us up to this point.